Finally, we're at the last review of the 5 reviews before Christmas.
Why not 12?
Because you only gave me 5 games. Do you know what it's like going to a grocery store and buying what is pretty much a Fire TV stick with a bunch of ROMs on it? Well, you're about to. Now, I was going to put my own ROMs on here so I'd have a better understanding on how this thing works, but honestly, I would rather bungee jump with my ball sack than figure out how to load ROMs onto this thing. But because this is the last review of this 5-part Christmas special, I decided to figure it out just for you. So, I have deleted every single ROM that was on here. Don't worry, they're all pretty much just no-intro ROM sets. And put my own on here so I can compare them to emulators on my computer. Now, will I show that? Fuck no. The only reason you'd pick this thing up is just to steal the 64GB SD card that's in it. There is no goddamn reason to have this. From the awful feeling controllers to the fact that this thing doesn't even come with a power cable, which is micro USB, by the way. This is overall just an inconvenient as fuck console. And anyway, it doesn't help that you're just buying this because, oh, there's 500 games on here. Do you know what else has 500 games on it? Fucking Internet Archive. You could just go there and play all those games, just download them to your computer and play them right now. This thing is no different from those shitty emulation handhelds, except this thing's modeled after a fucking Fire TV stick. Which is the worst part because I have to go out of my way to play this. Why? Because I can't just plug in an HDMI since this thing is only HDMI output. Anyway, the biggest issue that I ran into was trying to figure out how to make these games run. Of course, I tested it with the Atari 2600 games because that was the one they had the least amount of, and they weren't loaded. The old ones were still there, they just didn't boot now. And then I found out that you had to go into the resource manager just to load the games, and the Atari 2600 games that were bin files didn't work. Because they were bin files, which means if I want to test out a PlayStation game, it has to be an ISO file. Of fucking course, it has to be an ISO file. Also, after a while, the music just did this, and it's fucking obnoxious. And after a bunch of fucking around, and the SD card having corrupted files on it, I was finally able to actually put my ROMs on here, except for Atari 2600. Because they needed A26 files. The only ROM that I have of Atari 2600 games that use that specific file is the stupid fucking Blinds demo that has no sound. Anyway, enough with my struggles. Let's pop that SD card in. For some reason now it only shows up as 14 gigabytes and play this shit. First up was Arcade. Only 2 of them worked. And Sinistar never actually started, so it was only Pac-Man, and it had no audio. There wasn't much to say about it, it was just really stretched Pac-Man, which really fucked me up a bit. After that was NES, which was probably one of the better ones. I ran that accuracy coin thing, and here's the results. But the games that I tried was Ghostbusters for NES, which was definitely Ghostbusters for NES. It crashed. Godzilla Monster of Monsters, which just proves how dogshit this controller is. More on that later. And some bootleg and aftermarket games that didn't run the best. Micro Machines never booted in the first place, and Pac-Man and that bootleg Mario World were probably some of the best ones. After that was Super Nintendo. All the games worked fine except Mario's Mystery Meat. And yet, New Super Mario Land worked. One of these is definitely a little bit more intense than the others. Sorry that this one's not going to be that interesting. I'm pretty much just reviewing an emulator on a fucking Fire TV stick. And the games that I talked about already weren't that interesting.
It's okay. I don't blame you. Imagine having a device that can't play Pac-Man properly.
Are you upset because you can't play Pac-Man on this thing?
Kinda.
Babe, I literally have Pac-Man on every single device I have. And anyway, this is a grocery store console. You're not missing out on much.
At least Pac-Man on NES worked.
See, that's the spirit. Let's get back to it.
Next up is Sega Genesis. This one ran perfectly. All the games had 0 issues from what I could see. They're just a little stretched, that's it. I mean, look at Sonic the Hedgehog. After that was Game Boy Advanced, which was the most interesting. If it didn't like a game, it would take you all the way back to the main menu of the device. It wouldn't crash normally. It would take you to the fucking main menu. The games that did that was Doom and the SpongeBob movie game. And fuck, I even tried that 2-in-1 SpongeBob movie and freeze frame frenzy shit. And I was able to get to the opening logos of the movie game, and then it crashed. But the other games worked, and they were just fine. Even video titles like Game Boy Advance Video or that AVI to GBA thing worked. And then for some reason, Game Boy and Game Boy Color were separate.
And honestly, I think it's weird that they separated the colored games from the other games. What's next? They're gonna have to use different water fountains? It's fucked up, man.
Anyway, this thing couldn't run the Bible. It was awful to listen to, and it crashed when I tried to load up any page.
Now, why did I put the ROM of the Bible on here? Because surprisingly, it's a really good tester game. Yeah, all text, difficult to emulate. Now, of course, you can emulate it pretty easily now, or just go to the fucking library or a church, but still, some emulators cannot run the Bible for Game Boy, and I think that's really fucking funny.
Anyway, the other 2 games ran fine. I also just remembered that my copy of Link's Awakening is the German version. I never got a replacement English ROM of that fucking game. Now, time for Game Boy Color. I only have homebrew titles, but I did try this device before when I got it. I tried Rayman. This is very similar to what happened with the Bible. Anyway, Blinky's Revenge seemed to work fine, and Grimace's Birthday, I got 3 gazillion points, baby! Yeah, text is a little fucked with this one. And finally, PlayStation. I could talk about the Atari 2600, but again, the only game that I have for that is the Blinds demo, and that's not really interesting. It's just, like, stretched and for some reason blurry. So with PlayStation, I had Gex, LSD Dream Emulator, and Parappa the Rapper. LSD Dream Emulator seemed to work fine. The only problem with the game is that I have so little experience with LSD Dream Emulator that I don't know if some of this shit is like the emulator or the game itself.
By the way, LSD Dream Emulator is probably one of, if not the worst, PlayStation emulator tester games. Because the game already looks fucked up as is.
And Gex seemed to run perfectly. The only issue is that the FMV at the beginning had no audio. But besides that, it was a solid experience. And then finally, Parappa the Rapper. The game just straight up had no audio. The only audio was like menu sounds and Parappa's voice lines. And I think Parappa is the perfect tester game because this controller fucking sucks. It misses inputs because you press the buttons too softly. And I can show you through the audio notes as well, with the second level, how I'll just randomly miss a triangle hit, despite the fact that I pressed the damn button.
Step on the brake.
Step brake.
Notice how
Step
I'm
on the gas.
notice how I'm missing inputs. It signals to the left, check, and turn,
Check.
and
Turn
signal,
to the left.
turn to the left.
Now turn. Now to left.
And this is a perfect time to show you that you can use the right joystick to hit the buttons. Because the joysticks don't act like joysticks. They act like alternatives to the D-pad and buttons.
Gas.
How beautiful. And one more tip, if for some ungodly reason you ever get this thing, do not save on a PlayStation game. It will hang in the middle of saving, and you will have to restart the game. I also tried Crash Bandicoot 3 before I deleted every ROM. I'd rather not talk about it.
And with that, that was all the Christmas presents my beautiful wife gave me. Which reminds me. And you know what? Why don't you go ahead and have your next gift? She's Jewish.
Is this a ring light?
Yeah, so you stop looking like a fucking creepypasta on your own channel. Anyway, with that, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And if you have a problem with me saying either of those, happy shut the fuck up.